This is Naomi Ingebretson dissecting a sheep's brain for Biology 220. So here we have the brain, and it doesn't look as if the meninges are intact because you can't really see anything on the outside. There's no skin, but if they were there would be 3 of them, and they kind of protect the cerebrum, which is this part right here, and the outermost one being the dura mater, middle one being the arachnoid, and the innermost one next to the brain is the pia mater. But here we have the cerebrum, which is where most of the mental processing of the brain happens. It has 4 different lobes. So the frontal lobe right here is on the front, obviously. Directly behind that is the parietal lobe right here, temporal lobes on the side, and then on the back we have the occipital lobe kind of right in here. And the 2 hemispheres of the brain are divided by the medial longitudinal fissure, which I kind of cut down, but it is there originally. And on the back we have the cerebellum right here, which is where a lot of the muscle coordination happens. So yeah, and then on the top of the cerebrum you can see the little grooves, which are the sulci, and then the ridges are the gyri, which are the whiter parts, and then kind of where the blood vessels are would be the grooves. And if we flip it over, we can see this brainstem bit here, which is this whole thing. At the very base of it is the spinal cord, which is this little part right here, which goes straight into the medulla, which controls the respiratory and cardiovascular systems of the body. Directly above that is the pons, which is like a secretary for the medulla, so basically just assists with all of its functions. And then right above that is the midbrain, which is involved in the reflexes for the body. So, and then if you move up a little bit, my brain is kind of falling apart, but you can still see it. We have the olfactory bulb, which is kind of hard to see. I don't know, it might just not be there on this one, but I think it's this little part right here. Anyway, they would be right here on both sides. I think it's this little area right there. And then if you go a little bit back, we have this optic chiasm, which is this X right here. Basically, these are optic nerves. They make a cross and go to the eyeballs, which are right there. You can kind of see the cross a little bit. They just kind of snapped the optic nerves right there, which is why you can't see it very clearly, but it's there. So if we go ahead and open up the brain, we can get to the innards, and you can see on this half pretty good the ventricles. So there's the first and second. They're split by the septum pellucidum, which is kind of this little bit right here. But the first and second are there, and the third ventricle is right here, and the fourth is right there, and they are connected by the cerebral aqueduct, which kind of runs along the brainstem spinal cord thing right there. And on the tops of these ventricles there are the choroid plexuses, which is where the cerebrospinal fluid is produced and made. So getting into this diencephalon little part right here, which is some of these little organ thingies. You have the thalamus, which basically relays sensory information to the brain from the body, and that's this little bit right here. And then kind of down into the front a little bit is the hypothalamus, which assists with homeostasis and a bunch of other things, but basically helps the whole body kind of stay connected and maintains homeostasis for all that. And then this little back area here, I believe, is the epithalamus, which is basically the pineal gland, which is part of the endocrine system. So that whole part is the diencephalon. This being the cerebellum, In here you can see kind of like these little bits of white matter going through the gray. It's called the arbor vitae or something like that, but it looks like a tree basically, which is why it's called arbor, which is pretty cool. And if you flip it over, I believe I forgot to mention the cranial nerves, which are kind of over the midbrain part right here. They got snipped obviously, but there they are. There's 12 of them, and they extend from the brain and go off and do cool things. And then I already made this cut, so you can see the white matter and the gray matter. Gray matter being this stuff in here, which is made up of the unmyelinated axons, and the white stuff is myelinated, which is why it is white. And I think that's it. Oh yeah, forgot about the corpus callosum. Did I? I don't remember. Anyway, it's this thing right here, and it connects the two hemispheres of the brain. And I believe that is all.